Welcome to Path to Recovery. I'm Apryl Thomas, chatting with Claudia Wade, Director of Park County Travel Council in Cody, Wyoming. Thank you so much for joining us, Claudia. Let's
My
talk
pleasure.
about your role in the closing and the reopening process. What did you do? What did you handle? And all that fun stuff.
Well, much of what we do here is dictated by the governor, of course, of Wyoming, and then our Park County Health Center. And because we're also the east entrance to Yellowstone National Park, what the Park Service, Department of Interior is dictating as far as access and that type of thing truly dictates how we behave here. We have never been in a total lockdown mode here anywhere in Wyoming. We have been certainly restricted and trying to adhere to those restrictions, but I would say it's not been business as usual, but hasn't been as bad here in Wyoming as it has been in other populated states.
What were some of the challenges your office faced, and how did you work to overcome them or work around them?
Probably our biggest challenge was working with the Park Service. We have a good relationship with the superintendent of Yellowstone National Park. Being the east gate of Yellowstone, motor coach and tour traffic is very important to us. And the Park Service decided they were not going to allow motor coaches into Yellowstone. And so that certainly impacted the economics here in Cody. A lot of businesses rely heavily on that motor coach business, not only hotels and motels, but many of our attractions and activities here. That was a major blow for us. We're seeing a lot of families coming through, people traveling together, couples together, but that motor coach business is significant.
Now, during the shutdown period, what did your office do? Did you keep in touch with all the accommodations, attractions, keep morale up? What's the going on behind the scenes?
The Cody Chamber of Commerce was extremely helpful in keeping that communication open, in providing the PPE necessary for businesses to operate. And they were took the lead on that communication. So that was super. I was able to reach out personally to motels, hotels, and attractions and visit with them, chat about how their cancellations are coming in, what their bookings are looking like. So I was able to keep on top of that tourism segment of the community, and the Chamber of Commerce really took the lead on the rest of it.
Looking back, and I know things are still cautiously opening up, but looking back, is there anything you had done differently or approached differently, or?
And it's hard to look back because we're not through this yet. Mm-hmm. When we started this, I don't know that anybody anticipated it would last as long as it has, that it would have the economic impacts that it has. Not sure anybody saw that coming. As far as hindsight, I can't think of anything that I would have done better or differently. Like I said, so much of what we did was dictated by someone else. And, we want to play by the rules. We want people to be safe. We want the community to be safe, and we want our visitors to be safe. And so encouraging them to travel responsibly is very important in our messaging, along with the state of Wyoming's message. And so at this time, because I don't think it's truly behind us, I really can't think of anything I would have done differently.
Tell me about the messaging. What was the market messaging during this time? I mean, you still want people to know, hey, we're still here, but.
We are. We cut back significantly on our marketing during this, probably back in March. We just, for lack of a better expression, pressed pause on everything we were doing, with the exception of some social media, just so that we were still out there and people knew that we were still here and alive and well, if you will. And then we just started these last couple weeks picking up with some more digital marketing, but our typical marketing campaign for the year, that even the creative that we had planned for this year wasn't going to work with this new messaging. We are letting people know that we are wide open spaces. It's not difficult to social distance here. There are plenty outdoor activities to do that allows you to social distance. We're not a crowded destination, and as long as people are practicing and being responsible with their own safety and health in crowded areas such as some areas of Yellowstone National Park, everybody should have a good quality experience and be healthy.
And what advice would you give? What have you learned, like you personally learned that you felt like, yeah, this is good advice to give?
Advice to industry or advice to visitors, or
advice to industry, advice with dealing with visitors too, what they can do to properly maybe even deal with visitors.
It's interesting that in the visitor center, my office is here in Cody in the visitor center, and it's interesting how many people come through without masks. And we have masks at the door. We have sanitizer at the door. We've removed all the furniture out of the visitor center so that people cannot linger in the visitor center. They come in, they get their information, and then they leave. And even the front porch, we have we're in an old log building, a historic building here, and we've had big rockers on the front porch, and we've removed those as well. And so in my mind, it is not as hospitable as I'd like it to be. It's not as welcoming as it normally is, but there are some measures that we've had to take in order to adhere to some of these restrictions and make sure everyone is safe. I can't think of any advice other than you're not going to get in trouble if you follow the rules. And there are rules and there are responsibilities. And I think if everybody follows those and does it right, then people can be healthy and still have a great experience in Cody Yellowstone.
Is the area under mandated mask yet, or is it still?
We are not. It is still optional here. Depending on where you are, restaurants are required to, workers are required to wear masks. They first opened up outdoor dining, and now there is indoor dining on a very limited capacity, with tables being 6 feet apart and no groups larger than 6 people. So that's, people can still come in, sit down, and have a meal. Our bars, there is no sitting at bars any longer. You can sit at tables away from the bar, but again, a lot of this is dictated by the governor's office and the Wyoming Health Department. And then there are a few exceptions, and we have tried. Cody is known as for our rodeos, and of course that's large crowds. And so we had to approach that very differently with restrictions on the number of people that we could let into the rodeo grandstands. But we did apply for a variance with the county, and then they passed that on to the governor's office, and we did receive a variance. Cody's always had a rodeo every night all summer long, starting June 1st through August 31st. And without that rodeo, it's that cowboy culture that we hold so dear, and of course Buffalo Bill and his Wild West show and all of that. It's very critical to that experience in Cody. So we did get a variance for that, but they're only allowing 600 spectators. So it's very different than a regular summer, but at least we're still able to do it.
Are there going to be mask requirements? Is that part of it?
Pardon?
If you're 1 to 600, are you required to wear a mask? Is that one of
They're not. There's hand sanitizers throughout. The announcer is constantly reminding people to please keep your social distance, keep your group away from other groups. The food service and the beverage service at the rodeo, certainly they are wearing masks. Ticket takers are wearing masks. The queue line to go get tickets is 6 feet apart, but Spectators are not required to wear. Some are wearing masks, some are not.
Well, interesting, good. And at least that you still have that tradition too, because a
Yeah.
lot of destinations are finding they can't carry on some of the things just because it's just too large or just
Yeah.
too impossible and everything. You mentioned just with, how was it working with the various level of governments? Was it easy? I mean, this is a difficult time for all levels. Did you find it easy? Was it, or?
Well, Wyoming is it's a big state, but we have just a few people living here. We were saying the other day how fortunate we are that, the governor's been to Cody many times. I've had an opportunity to visit him one-on-one many times. So while we're a big state, we're very close-knit. And we certainly know the gentleman in charge of our Park County Health Center. And, he's our first go-to person if we have a question or if we are considering writing a variance. That process is a little laborsome and cumbersome, but if you want to get an exception, it's necessary. So we work with him first, and he makes sure that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and then that gets forward down to the governor's office. And then if they've got questions or need something else, why we can go ahead and take care of it then. So it is labor intensive. There's no doubt about it. It's not an easy phone call or a one-page form. But I think given the seriousness of this pandemic, it's necessary.
Sounds like it's also necessary to have all the lines of communications open and to understand this is new for everybody at every level.
Exactly.
Is there anything else you would like to add before we end? Anything I missed?
Well, I can't think of anything. Your hindsight question was intriguing. It will be different, next year to look back on this and see the outcome if we are past this. And I'm hoping this time next year we are past it or very close to being past. But who's to know? It's as you said earlier, it's new for everyone, and we're doing the best we can. But businesses are closing, and economics are not good in this area. And of course, in Wyoming, we're very dependent on oil and gas, and that industry has been less significant economically than in other years. And so it's a struggle, and tourism is our bright light. And we're open for business. We're wide open spaces, and you'll be welcome here.
Well, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, April. I appreciate it.